Hello everyone, welcome to a new video today, and this is a flip through video. This is part 2 of my Portland album. So it is completed now, so you're looking at the second half, and as you can see, I love the inside of this album because it's got a city grid on it. This is an album from Ali Edwards. Here's what the outside looks like. This is the inside. If you haven't watched part 1, go back and do that because I talk a little bit more about the album and why I chose it. But let's get started with part 2. So on this day, we were going to the zoo, which is where I ended the last video, and then, or at least the last flip through video. And then after that, we went on to the Japanese garden. If you are in Portland and you like botanical outdoorsy things, this is a great option. It was stunning. I'm sure it's beautiful at all times of year. We were there in mid-May. It was absolutely gorgeous. So this is a postcard that I picked up, and so I wanted to use that in there, and I was able to make that work with just a little vellum behind it, which I like the sort of soft touch behind it. And then this is the visitor's guide that you get when you check in with your ticket, and I wanted to incorporate that in here, and I wanted to keep it as open and viewable as possible. I did add a picture here, so this is what you see when you approach it from the parking lot. And then here is the map. I did include a full photo on the back just to utilize that space and not add more bulk. And then it's also fully viewable on this side, which tells you all about the different areas of the garden. So I'm very happy that I was able to incorporate that in its entirety. And then on the facing page over here, this is pretty much as you enter the first thing that you see. So I wanted to get a shot of my friend next to this little thing here. And then there's a picture of me with it too, but it's on the next layout. So there I am, and I tried to match a lot to the color shirt I was wearing. I realized it kind of didn't go with a lot of what we saw, but how do you know? When you start the day, how do you know? So I figured out a way to make it work. I have a photo flip here, and these are just like washi stickers, kind of. They come on a roll, and I just picked one that I thought matched the best, and it happened to be this one. And then over here, just some more general photos of us walking around the different areas of the gardens. And because I knew I had a lot of bulk happening in the front, I really tried to keep it as flat as possible in the second half. So very flat stickers here, one little puffy sticker, but it barely added any depth to this because these are so thin. These are from Ellie's Studio. It's one of the things I like about them, actually, is I can add them and not feel too guilty about it. So then on this side, I have some cards here. Both of these are from Coco Daisy. They had a kit that was very Asian themed. This was actually the name of this one. And then they had a previous one, maybe a year or two prior, that was also Asian themed, but had some different things in it. I actually ended up using parts from both here. So that's awesome. Little chipboard here. And then here I have another insert item because they had a special art exhibit happening, which we didn't know about when we went. That was a nice surprise. But they had these brochures that you could just take, and so I did, and I wanted to include that as well. And then again, I incorporated it by using the back, including a photo there, so I wouldn't have to add another insert or another page just to get that in there. On this side, I had some lovely paper that I believe was also from this kit. Maybe not the koi pond, maybe it was from the previous one, but it is Coco Daisy, I'm almost positive. Again, added some vellum just to soften up that background. Kept it very simple, just a few little stickers and phrase labels, and that's it. And then they did have their own cafe there, and we were a little snack hungry at one point, so we decided to go in there, and we just had some ice cream flights of all things. They were out of several other things for the day, so it must have been busy before we got there, but it was warm. We were fine with having the ice cream just to try them, so we did have that. So we had mochi here, and then I also had a drink. And then after that, we had a brief stop at the Holocaust Memorial, and it was very moving. I'm glad I visited, but also very hard to go in there and view that and read all the plaques and things. So I chose not to really take photos of that here. So this is just where you enter, and then I talked a little about that there, and that's all I have on that. And then we left Washington Park. So the zoo the Japanese Garden, and the Holocaust Memorial are all in the Washington Park complex. So this is part of the map you get. And I really liked the visual here. So I just tore off the rest and decided to use this as its own insert because it was the right size. So we were done there. That was a lot of walking that day. So we were done. So we went back to our Airbnb, and I wanted to include some more pictures of the neighborhood because I just loved it so much. I could totally live there. And so here I have those with a little flip. Again, pretty flat. A couple of puffy stickers, but not anything too major there. And then we just spent the evening there relaxing. We didn't go out and do anything else. So what you're seeing now is the next morning. And this was Pine State biscuits. And this is one of the best meals that we had. I'm a breakfast person. So if you're a breakfast or brunch person and you're going to Portland, you need to find this. These are the best biscuits and gravy I've ever had. They were fantastic. And you can see, look at this. The portions are huge. Like, I couldn't finish totally. My friend left even more on her plate than I did. So I gave it a good try. But you might not be able to finish it, and that's okay. So I just talked a little bit about our visit there, and then I used a flip here to incorporate as much as I could, and a thin chipboard embellishment there, but again, keeping it pretty thin. After we were done with our late breakfast, we went downtown, and our goal was to go to the courthouse. It said online that you could do a tour, a self-guided tour. So we show up there, we try to go in, and a guard stops us outside and says, no, they're not allowing tours. And I said, well, your website says that you are. And he's like, well, the website's wrong. We're not doing it because of COVID, so it's only actual business that's allowed inside. So, we didn't get to do that. And it was very frustrating that the website wasn't updated with that, because that's how most people, I'm guessing, are getting their information. So shame on you, Portland. You need to update that. Then in the afternoon, actually after we left here, we went to Powell's Books for a while because we had a gap in between where we were here and the time we needed to be present for our tour, because we thought the courthouse was going to take longer. So I said, oh, we're not that far from Powell's Books. Let's go down there. I did not scrap it because I've been there before. So I didn't feel the need that I needed to do that twice. But I'm glad we went because then my friend got to see it. So after that, we came back up to our meeting place for our tour. And this was a tour of waterfalls. So this was our coach that we were taking. And then here's a picture of the front. And this was our first stop overlooking the Columbia River. It was gorgeous. A little overcast at this point, but it was still beautiful. Then here's a better look facing off a slightly different direction. Just some info that they have up at the top at this viewpoint. And then we did see the Vista House, but it was locked. It's staffed by volunteers, so it's only open when they have volunteers to run it, and it was not open that day, sadly. So we only saw it from the outside. So sadly, I can't put any pictures in there of what it looks like on the inside because I don't know. And now we're on to this. This is one of my favorite photos from the whole trip. I love it. I love the vista behind us. I like that my friend and I are both in it. And so I decided to blow it up to a 10x8. So I've got 4 inches on this side and then the 6 over here. And it works out very well, I think. And I love actually that she's wearing pink. It allowed me to incorporate some bright colors into this when otherwise I probably would not have. Otherwise it's very gray, green, blue that you'll see. That gets old having to use those same colors all the time. So it's great that I got to include some more pastel and bright pink options. So here are some more photos of us just overlooking the gorge here and the river. And I decided to just do a collage print. I did it in, I think I used Project Life. And then, you know, it's a 6x8. So I just saved it and then had it printed at my own developer. And it came out very well. And then I have just a little insert here, Traveler's Notebook size, a 4x8. And then on this side, we really start looking at the waterfalls. And so I wanted to designate the day of the week, what our weather was like, the day we did. You could do 2 options, either a morning option of 4 hours or an afternoon option for 4 hours. We chose the afternoon so we could spend the early part of the day doing other things. And so here we are at the first waterfall, which was very powerful. When we were back here on this trail, we could feel the spray from it. And that's pretty far back. It's hard to tell depth here. It was pretty far back and we were still feeling spray from it. So it was very powerful at this time of year. And then here I got to incorporate some pink again. Now this is a puffy sticker that's a little bit more chunky, so I didn't include too many of those in order to hold down the size problem that I was having here with so many pages. But I figured if I got one here, then I might as well use some chipboard here. It's still pretty thin, but it's still chipboard, so it's not totally flat. And then this was a little 3x8 insert. And then here we are at our next waterfall, which is Horsetail Falls. So I wanted to get several shots of it in there. This is a sticker I found in the gift shop, very flat. These are cork embellishments. Yes, they're technically sort of 3D arrays, but they're very, very thin. So I felt okay using those. And another set of pictures. This is the bottom pool where it crashes down. You can see how crazy that was. This is another one where the force of it was quite obvious, just given what we were seeing and feeling. So if you have a chance to go out and see these when you're in Portland, if you have some time to go a little bit out of the city, it is totally worth your time. So after those two waterfalls, we actually got to go to a fish hatchery as part of the tour. I will say, this was not a motivator for me to purchase this particular tour. It was just like an extra thing. I'm like, okay, maybe that'll be interesting. And it wasn't my favorite part of it, but it was okay. So if you feel like, well, I don't know if I want to do that tour, if that's included because I don't care, it's probably the shortest stop of all of them, and it's fine. It goes pretty quickly. But if you are interested in fish and hatcheries, then this may be a great place for you. So I didn't scrap a whole lot of that. It was pretty quick, and I didn't have much to say about it. I did get a postcard in the gift shop, so I included that. Again, it helps me to fill pockets, but yet keep them flat, which is great. I appreciate that. And then my friend and I are outside the gift shop here, and they had this Bigfoot statue. And, well, of course, we're going to have our picture taken with Bigfoot, right? So we had that done, which was a fun experience. And then after that, we were on to the last waterfall of the day, which is Multnomah Falls, which is the biggie. It's very famous. Most people would recognize the photo of it when they see it. So we saved the best for last. And I took a nice long and narrow shot there, which worked out well for a 3x8 insert. A little bit of chipboard, a little bit of very thin wood veneer. And then here's the full picture where you can see the upper fall and the lower fall. And it was a little bit misty. It started to rain when we were leaving, but still I think the view is pretty good, and it really made the greens pop because they were slightly wet. So I'm totally okay with that. And then over here I did a little bit more journaling about this particular area and our guide because he was awesome. He made us all feel very welcome, gave us tons of information about the area and the waterfalls. And actually, we were only supposed to see 2 waterfalls, and he threw in the Horsetail Falls. That was an extra. So kudos to Zeke. He was awesome. So there he is. I want to give credit where credit is due. And then after our tour, we just went back to our Airbnb. That was a very full day. And we decided we were going to order in for dinner. We were too tired to go out and try to hunt down a restaurant and find somewhere we could be. So we're like, you know what? We're just going to look online. If it's got good reviews, we're going to order. Have them bring it to our door. So that's what we did. We used Uber Eats, and it was expensive to do it, but you know what? It was totally worth it. So then we're on to the next day, and here's another little snafu we had. We wanted to go to the Oregon Maritime Museum, which is actually a ship, and it docks on the river here. Once again, the website said it's open. Come on down. You can view it. We got there. There's no ship docked there. It wasn't there, period. It was just gone somewhere. I don't know where. There was no holiday happening or anything, so I don't know what the deal was, but once again, the website was incorrect. So we had that happen twice. It was very frustrating, but we decided, you know what, we'll just make the best of it. Now we have extra time to do something else. So we decided to go to the Crystal Springs Rhododendron Garden. And this was something that was like a maybe on our list. We weren't sure that we would get there. It's kind of out of the way to everything else we were doing. But we thought, we've just been given the gift of time by this not working out. So let's figure out how to get there and we'll go explore. I'm actually very glad that it worked out that we went here because this ended up being another of my favorite things that we did. It was so spectacular. I highly recommend it to any of you who might be going to Portland at the time of year when rhododendrons and azaleas are blooming. So as you can see here, I just kept it very simple. I had some pocket cards. I used these 3 stickers. They're all from the same set so that they would match. The color worked very well with this light kind of minty green and the gold foil. And, ooh, I want to say Allie Edwards, but I don't know if that's who makes them. Maybe not. Don't quote me on that. But they worked for what I was doing here. And kept it flat. Over here, some further pictures of the garden. Again, very flat. Just this little phrase here, and I did some stamping, and then I had some ephemera pieces. That's it there. Now this one I did add a little bit more because I wanted to use sequins. These flowers are so pretty. Look at them. I had to do it. I needed the sparkle and shine in there. And actually, I put less in there than I normally do, just to keep it a little flatter, and it's really not that bad. So I'm very pleased with how that turned out. And then on this side, obviously these show through, so that was already done, which was great. And then I just added these all flat. So very little embellishment there, but I feel like it's effective. And then after that, that was another long day because we started early, and this was a lot of walking, getting to and from, because we had to take a bus to get there, and the bus didn't pull up right in front, so we had to walk both to and from. So it was a lot. And so at the end of the day, we're like, you know what? We're finally going to go to that beer place that was recommended to us by one of our Lyft drivers. So here we are at Great Notion, and I have to say I'm in love with these dang flip layouts. It has allowed me to include so many more photos that I normally either would have to exclude or do a whole second layout to get them in there. Now I don't have to because I have this. And again, very flat. Got my cards here. I just put this little embellishment. This is chipboard, but it's very thin. And that is from, I think, Pink Fresh, if I remember right. Very flat here as well. And then that was it for that day. The next day, we really only had one thing on our agenda, and that was the Portland Art Museum, because when I had been in Portland before, I didn't get to go. So I wanted to make sure I made it there this time. And we saw a lot of art specific to the Pacific Northwest, which is great because in other parts of the country, like where I live in the Midwest, we don't get to see that as much. And so it's a real treat to see something that is specific to the region. So then I had another 3x8 here, again, very flat. These are very just simple stickers and embellishments here. And then the same on this side. And this is actually where, as I was putting this together, I had realized, oh, I wrote the date wrong on some stuff. So if you noticed it, there's one. I had to cover that up. Realized I was off there, and then here and here I had to fix that. But I think it looks okay. Like this one isn't too obvious. This one's a little more obvious, but hey, I found something in orange, so it's okay. Very basic card here, just a sticker to keep it flat. And then after that, we wanted to go out to lunch. And we wanted to be somewhere not directly in downtown. So we decided to take a streetcar and go up to Nob Hill, which is sort of above the city a little bit. So we just went up to that area, looked on our phones at the map to see what's around that has good reviews. We picked this, and we got lucky because it was very, very good. So you can see our food choices here. And again, very flat, minimal embellishments that are stickers, phrase labels, one little puffy sticker, an extremely thin wood veneer. And that's all it took. So after we were done with our main meal, we had heard about Salt and Straw. I had read about it on several blogs I follow, several Instagram people had mentioned it, and we saw that there was one like 2 blocks away. So we thought, well, we have to walk over there because it's so close, and we've heard about it, we want to try it. And oh my God, I'm not a huge ice cream person, but this is in a class by itself. The flavors are very unique. For the most part, like I had the honey lavender, that's why it's purple. It is some of the most delicious ice cream I've ever had, and a big scoop that filled this tub was only $5.50. That's worth it to me. So again, if you're out there and you want to try something like that, definitely go here. I think there are 3 or 4 locations throughout Portland, so you will find one, and it's delicious. So again, that was kind of it for that day. We had a very restful evening back at our cottage. And then the next day, we really only had time to get our stuff ready and go to the airport before our flight. But we were plenty early. There really was no line, so we had plenty of time to walk around. So we found the Deschutes Brewery, which we had heard of but never saw it in town. They have one. right in the airport. So I got to look around in there, and I actually bought my husband a pint glass souvenir. And then sadly, we were on our flight home. That was the end of our trip. So here we are in the plane. I was actually on the aisle on one side. My friend was across from me. We both like aisle seats in case we need to get up most of the time. So we were across from each other there. And just very pleasant, easy flight home. Thinking about the wonderful week I'd had being gone and how much I really, really loved this trip. This is probably one of the more relaxing trips that I've taken because we really didn't stick to a solid plan. Like, we didn't plan it out beforehand. We just said, here are the places we want to go. We'll figure it out. Like, once we get there, we'll make our plan every night and then we'll go that way. And it worked out extremely well. So I'm happy with the album. I'm happy with the trip. It's all good. So I'm glad you stuck with me to see the second half. And now this album is complete. Thanks for watching.